So hello again everyone, this is Nuke Shot Off Apple of Dynamic Racing Leagues, here with you again for Dynamic Racing League's Super Formula. This time we are in Japan on the Tokyo Expressway street circuit. It's a night race here today. It's going to be an exciting one, no doubt. This track has thrown up some excitement in the Nuke Shot Endurance series. Hopefully we can replicate some of that action here today. We have a fantastic grid lineup yet again. Unfortunately, some cars not able to make it at this particular stage, but they might be joining later on throughout the evening. But this sees the return of the Alfa Romeos of Hyper Racing, I believe the team was. Here you see Brandon coming through after serving their race ban from the first two races, missing out Blue Moon Bay, and now returning here for round 4. It's an extremely high speed layout, it has to be said. You can really just see the kind of pace that the cars are carrying through here. Of course, they are stock tuned, but from my own experimentations, it is pretty much flat throughout Sector 3. As there's a bit of lagging going on Brandon's car, which is a bit of concern. Who else do we have here today? We have RBZ Arama in the Nuke Shot model car. Of course, matching helmet. Custom designed by the Dutchman. Currently his teammate not here at the moment, but car 34 is making his way under to set another lap. And indeed, we're hearing reports of Brandon lagging at least. John Wandering, of course, for Nuke also here as well, with the Ford EcoBoost power plant. That should be giving them plenty of grunt down this fantastically long straight that we have here. Really, it's going to be a slipstream fest in the opening laps at least. Whoever breaks the gap is going to be very difficult to catch. Of course, we have King of Torque for Dynamic Esports BMW. Again, another really strong contender. He's currently the fastest in the practice session with a 141.2, but they've ran wide, and that is going to be of some concern. Turn 1, extremely easy to understeer on. In fact, another car that seems to be lagging, actually, is King of Torque, so quite a few lag McGee's, it would seem, as Roland, the second of the Alfa Romeos, has now just entered the pit lane. But there they are, after serving race ban as well, or round ban I think it was. Of course there's Dynamic Carbon as well, who's in the pits, but after, I believe it was an incident that was investigated, the one at Blue Moon Bay that involved Arama, I believe he was being given a race ban. I just need to get quick confirmation on that. It might be just the one, it might be both, as what happened to the Alfa Romeos. But nevertheless, he is here as host to run the lobby and such. Brandon, now this is very interesting. That Alpha has got some pace on it. You see it kicking up some sparks. And it's really concerning to see the amount of lag going on. A track like this, that is certainly not what you want to see. As you now see, it's a bit of a slipstream battle between, I believe that's King and John Wandering, as they make their way down towards turn 1. You can see the kind of speeds that they're getting up to. There you see it, 186, just tapping on 187 miles an hour. And they're side by side. John Wandering wisely backs out of that, runs wide just a bit too early on the power, and it's so easy to understeer. So we're having confirmation from the stewards that it's going to be just the first race that Carbon's banned from. So he'll be here for the second, the 20-minute race. Just getting confirmation from the stewards chat on all of this. So I think there's a slight bit of lag on everyone's end. You can really see the flames from the engines on the exhaust pipes just lighting up the surroundings here at Tokyo. Fantastic course, it has to be said. A lot of drivers, as John Wondering does overshoot it a little bit, quite concerned regarding certain sections. Turn 1 in particular being such a high-speed approach. But we'll have to see. It's been relatively fine in the Nuke Shot Endurance series. Of course, these are completely different drivers as John Wondering makes his way into the pits. As I believe this is qualifying getting underway. The stewards are still actually discussing whether it's 1 or 2 races that Carbon's sitting out, but qualifying is underway. King of Torque currently leads them out. Interesting tactics by these guys at this stage is sticking together. That might be crucial actually, is playing the slipstream game down the straight. That could certainly make the difference between pole and last position. Of course, you also just don't want to pick up damage. You need to set at least a banker lap before really pushing the pace. So extremely high-speed stuff. As I've mentioned, most cars manage to go flat out through this sector 3. Really just see the pace of the car through here, and the downforce at work. It is incredible to see. We're gonna go on board with King of Torque in the Dynamic Esports BMW car, and we're going to have an onboard lap of Tokyo East Outer Loop, or EOL. So of course going into the tunnel, which features the start-finish line. An extremely long straight, a bit of elevation change as it goes up, and then it slightly curves to the left. So all about straight lining it as much as possible to not lose as much speed. You can see King technically lane changing as he does just keep the car in a straight line. Then you go off this off-ramp, and to a very heavy braking zone into turn 1, which is so easy to understeer on. King just about nailing that, and then turn 2, much the same but to a lesser degree, as the car is already quite slowed down. Then going into sector 3, as you can see, this section extremely fast and flowing, and then Tokyo's very own Death Chicane. King keeping full throttle through that. That is the kind of commitment we're seeing from these drivers. And again, flat through the right-hander, and then the left, and then it's this next right-hander where you generally have to lift off or brake a little bit. Yeah, you can hear the engine cut out, and then lining the car up the exit of that, and then you have a very heavy braking zone down to the final corner, the hairpin, the tightest corner on the track by quite a margin. Very easy to run wide and miss your braking marker, and very easy to oversteer with missed throttle application on the exit. And you take a quite smooth and wide line through there if you're going to nail it. So King of Torque generally doing an alright job, it has to be said. Hello to John Wondering and Garmin Racer in the chat. That's a 140.954 from King. What's Arama going to be able to do? Will it be faster? No, not quite. It's going to be a couple seconds off. It's indeed 1.8 seconds slower. Brandon goes top of the time, so the Alfa Romeo power certainly coming into its own, as I did allude to in the practice portion. John wondering, still on an outlap it would seem. And we're having confirmation that, yep, Carbon is definitely sitting out this next race. But Roland just about to go on to a lap. So we're currently having 5 drivers on track. So not the largest of grids, however, hopefully there should be some more joining us later on. Makes me question why the sign-ups are closed. Even though I don't think we have any reserve slots taken, as Roland is actually purple in Sector 1. It runs wide and scrapes the barriers. I don't think that would have cost them overly much time, but again, everyone's seeming to be a bit laggy. Roland doing a good job. So King is 2/10 up going into the last sector. Oh wait, no, this is Brandon we're on board with actually. So King's actually just set a new fastest. That's a 140.5, but it's looking like Brandon is again going to trump that lap time only just. It's a 140.493, and the Alfa Romeos are looking extremely strong. And I haven't heard anything from Joe of the Fire, Carbon, so I assume he's not. I haven't said anything. He's not been on Discord, at least in the drivers/ambassadors chat on Nookshot Motorsport, so it's quite unfortunate. However, we still have a decent amount of action to go here. As you can see, Brandon using the slipstream of Arama and already 3/10 up as they cross the Sector 2 marker. So although having a bit of dirty air, is managing to drive through that and generally managing to improve his lap times, still 2/10 up. And will he be close enough to have even more of an effect going onto the straight? I did mention that slipstreaming would be key to getting pole position here. Again, those two extremely close, and Brandon seeming to have a bit of a slip on exit, but actually no, they gain a bit of time, so 3/10 and they are well in the slipstream range. We're going on board with Brandon's Hyper Racing Alfa Romeo. Arama's weaving a bit, trying to break the slipstream or something. It's a 140.1 from Brandon, and that is a fantastic lap time. Of course, he has had 2 weeks to practice after the unfortunate race ban for him, or round ban rather, from Blue Moon Bay. And it's certainly seeming like he's bouncing back from this, coming very, very strong. Looks very, very strong to get that pole position at this stage. We're just about halfway through qualifying. You saw Arama pull off to the side of the track. They might have picked up damage. As that was Brandon getting it quite wrong. But still, now John Wandering overtaking King of Torque. So King seeming to back out on this run, just letting John Wandering go through. Let's see what good old Jono can do. As I have forgot to turn notifications off like the professional I am. So John wondering what can he do as he is still on an outlap actually, so that's quite concerning, but he's about to go on one. There's King of Torque in the back. So King not gaining, so just outside of that juicy slipstream range it would seem for now. Yep, seeming to get the braking just about right. As King goes into the wall, it's very difficult to tell what's going on really due to the amount of lag, but that time it was definitely King going into the wall. He picked up damage surely, otherwise he wouldn't have failed that attempt. And things not looking that good for King of Torque. Things looking quite exceptional for Brandon. Still holds the fastest lap on qualifying. It's a 15-minute session, of course. So John Wondering just making his way through the last little section, just got the hairpin to go and to nail that exit. What can he do? Interestingly enough, Brandon hasn't currently improved on that time, but at the moment he doesn't need to. King of Torque still probably on an outlap after they picked up damage in turn 1. It's probably the dirty air from John Wandering's car that didn't do him any favours. John Wandering will come across the line to set a lap time. I think that's his first lap. It's a 1:45. So 5.2 seconds off the pace. However, it is a starting point for the Americans, so can work from there, start shaving the tenths. Again, the flames for these cars producing the sparks as well, preferably when they don't run into the walls, is fantastic to see. Brandon is just parked up on the straight actually, so there's yellow flags in sector 1. Luckily his car is ghosted, but that is still some concern. King of Torque trying to follow, is that a Rama up the road? I believe it is. But again, he's not quite in that slipstream range, and he knows that he'll need the slipstream if he's going to probably have a better chance at upsetting that time. Arama is also following someone. Arama is following, I believe that's Roland up ahead, as they go purple in sector 1. Oh, and that's Roland getting it all... No, that wasn't Roland, that was Brandon getting it all wrong, rather. So our current pole sitter, just on the exit of turn 2, seeming to just lose the car. And he's apologised for that, but he would have certainly gave them a scare. Can't really do replays while the lobby is in practice mode, unfortunately. But that is certainly going to be of some concern and would have distracted them a bit. King probably now getting into the slipstream range of RBZ, especially now RBZ has paused or ghosted at least, so he'll be going slower than normal. Indeed. And there wasn't contact between Arama and Brendan, so that's at least good to know. King will be coming up to the line. What's it going to be? The time is ticking. It's not quite going to be enough, and it won't be an improvement. That lap would only just be enough to see them ahead of Arama anyway, but of course they've set a faster one. Just watch their line through the first 2 turns when he eventually gets to them. Just see how he does it. Of course, King, a very well-renowned driver in the Dynamic Racing League's community, and seeming to just about keep it out of the barriers. A bit of understeer, not quite clipping the apex, but then again you'd be able to carry a bit more speed if you take that wider line. Let's just listen to the engine note. Pretty much completely flat through that chicane, so fantastic stuff to see from King of Torque. As he gets it wrong, does he? He hasn't picked up damage, so that might have just been a little bit of a lag spike. And again, lag spike, just clipping the wall, throwing for a few sparks. And we're coming towards the end of the session. King slowed down. He's letting a Rama by. I don't know if he'll be able to get onto another lap actually. I'll have the flag warning out to go just at the right moment. It's going to be close. There you can see the time in the bottom left corner. It's certainly going to be close. Arama just trying to not let King have any of the slipstream. And he doesn't quite make it. On my screen, King didn't quite make it when the time... You can check that on stream replay, but to my eyes, he was about 20 or 25 meters from the line. But he has gone purple, so I don't know what's going on here. Obviously he would think that he is still on a lap, but no, he's now realized he's only just missed out. So surprise, surprise, it is Brandon who has taken pole position here in Tokyo. So fantastic drive from the Hyper Racing Alfa Romeo. Look forward to seeing what they can do off the front row of the grid going into turn 1. Of course, with everyone behind them, they'll be benefiting from his slipstream. So perhaps first place not where you want to be on this particular circuit, but we'll have to wait and see how it all pans out. Carbon, of course, still here, but not racing, just telling everyone to park up, as I need to quickly turn off notifications before more stuff happens and blocks the stats. My apologies for not doing that sooner. There we go, we are back. Garmin Racer asking where's Ayrton Spencer. That is a very good question, because Ayrton Spencer has recently signed up to this championship. I'm quite surprised he hasn't showed up. He's got a very nice juicy Judd power plant in that Team Black Diamond car, but he isn't here today, it would seem. Don't quite know what's going on there. Carbon was given a penalty for what happened at Blue Moon Bay, where he was basically half stopped on the track and Arama ended up running into him because he was sort of on the racing line. So that's why he has a race ban for race 1, but he should be able to make race 2, if I am correct, and that is what the stewards have decided. Just gonna get my second phone up, and there are 2 Nuke Shop cars here today. One is a Nuke also, one is a regular Nuke Shop Motorsport car. So, of course, if you've just missed it, it was an amazing display, an amazing tactical feat also from Brandon to use the slipstream to get himself up into pole position. It will be King lining up alongside. We'll just quickly go to the live timing. Here are the laps. So the top 3 cars all setting 1 minute 40s, then Roland just a bit off in the 141s, and John wandering, hoping to just get a bit more consistency. It seemed like he was hitting the barriers quite a bit, which is quite unfortunate, but he did mention he was a lot more confident on the softs, and he has qualified on the mediums, and is the only one to do so. So that could really work out for him, you know, and because he's in 5th, he'd be able to control his own pace as opposed to being pressured from behind, so less chance of being involved in a potential turn 1 incident. So we'll have to wait and see regarding that, but things are certainly panning out to be quite interesting in this one. AC King of Talk doing some slide McGee's. Who can blame him? Brandon or Carbon in chat saying he's got 2 phones, one for his mother, one for BG Media. Or is that meant to be that I have one for BG Media and one for my parents? Of course, big up Jack Wilkinson, race cameraman here today. As always, a fantastic job done by the only man in Blackpool who has a camera. AC Arama qualified 3rd. And I believe everyone here should be scoring points. Which I think was something that John Wandering brought up earlier, was that this is basically 3 points for him. Of course, John Wandering being the fan favourite. Who's the actual fan favourite? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, or of course the live chat. I would just say John Wandering because he is the lad. So we're having the final radio calls from the drivers, and we're about to get things started. Again, fantastic job by Brandon to put the car on pole. It's going to be very good for the constructors actually, because both of the Hyper Racing Alfa Romeos are here. Of course, it still says on the thread carbon that they're under Ferrari as their engine manufacturer. But who knows, who knows. But finally, we're about to get the race underway. Of course, the only night race of the season that I'm aware of here at the Tokyo Expressway. It is Brandon who has put the car on pole. King of Tokyo will be alongside. Arama will be looking the slipstream in 3rd, as will Roland and John in 4th and 5th respectively. So not that long to go now. We're about to get racing here in Tokyo. Green, 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 and the cars are off. Everyone seems to have a very good start, especially King. King launches off the line. Seemed to use a bit of overtake in order to take that position. And now a bit of overtake being used by Brandon as well. He's trying to fend him off. He's right under his rear wing and he's looking to try the outside. And Arama's also coming into this as well. Everyone extremely close. The slipstream doing a very good job. They're going into turn 1. And that looks like King is the one that has lost out, as Arama's going down the inside as well. It seemed that John Wandering clipped the barrier, as King just about manages to get back ahead of Arama, but it is Brandon who leads. And in fact, it seems like Arama's going under a bit of pressure from Roland as well. It seems that most of everyone except Arama seems to be lagging on my screen. Oh my life, the sparks as they went through the chicane. So King just trying to close to the back of Brandon yet again. It seems like John Wandering has fallen off the back. And there's wall damage. Oh, he has actually picked up rear aero damage. And that was Arama taking a very massive hit into the wall. Just get a replay of this. It just seemed to be right there. Massive impact with the wall. And that's really going to put pain to their chances. John Wondering really struggling as well. They also have aero and suspension damage. So things not looking good for the nuke shot cars. It is Brandon who still leads this one now with a 2-second gap. Arama coming into the pits, as no doubt John Wondering will as well. So they're making their tyre change. At least getting that incorporated into that. King of Talk already saying well done to Arama for that. I can't tell if that's semi-sarcastic or what, but yes, the lag is absolutely insane, and slipstream is going to be very much essential in this one. And I think the fact that Brandon has managed to get away is certainly helping them. Brandon seems to have absolutely incredible pace. They're just gaining and gaining the 10th. Of course, it doesn't help that King of Talk car is damaged. I think Brandon is the only one not to pick up damage on this occasion. Yeah, indeed, even Brandon's teammate, Roland, not having the best of outings yet. So everyone's starting to spread out a bit due to the damage. Roland surely will be coming into the pits soon. Whether he changes tyres or not, we'll have to wait and see. But Brandon certainly at a massive advantage, avoiding all the damage. And gotta say that qualifying has really helped him, due to the fact that he just managed to stay out of trouble and manages to keep his cool under the pressure and just stay out the walls. He's doing a fantastic job of it right now, as that is... It looked like Roland having a bit of a slide. We'll see if we can catch that. Was it Roland? Yep. Just seemed to lose it mid-corner. That's a very odd accident. That was very strange how that happened to him. But he is staying out with the damage, which... Interesting strategy. King coming into the pits. He'll rejoin in third, and I don't think... Arama's picked up damage again. Surely not. So Arama again. It's just seeming to lack consistency, as some of these drivers are just keeping it out the wall. So that's dropped them down to last. Still fifth, so it's still points for everyone. But Brandon has really managed to make the most of this. Look how close they're getting to the barriers on the chicane. And now Ayrton Spencer has decided to join, so Ayrton Spencer will be here for the second race. Garmin Racer, you'll be very glad to see that Team Black Diamond will be represented in race 2. Oh, Brandon into the wall, and they have picked up damage, so what I was saying about consistency is starting to bite Brandon back, and they've now picked up damage. Surely everyone just has to drive conservatively and just get through this race, as opposed to, you know, push. And in fairness, Roland choosing to stay out, that might not be as crazy of an idea as you may think, because if you're going to pit and then you pretty much know that you're going to pick up damage again if you are lacking confidence in the car, then what's the point really of coming into the pits? But as soon as I say that, of course Roland comes in, as Brandon has now switched to the mediums and rejoins. King of Talk might have a bit of a run on him, although he is quite a way back, so yeah, won't have a run on him. I was just thinking the overspeed, with it being such a long straight. Now watching Roland, and it looks like that overspeed is allowing John Wandering to catch up. So John Wandering looking to challenge for the podium, seeming to get past. Will Roland be able to do anything in the slipstream? Going into turn 1, he's looking to the inside, and it seems that John Wandering has managed to hold on to the position. But again, we'll be in the slipstream. John Wandering having to use a bit of the overtake. You can clearly see in this night race when the overtake is being used or not, due to the flashing of the lights. And that's Roland getting it wrong. So we're gonna have to go on an onboard replay. Yep, major impact, and that is exactly what I was saying. Like, what's the point if you are just going to end up picking up damage again? And what's this? There's more chaos as that was a Rama going through. Right, can we quickly see what happened here? So there's coming up, just crossing that sector marker, and a Rama seemingly gets through just about unscathed. Indeed, that was the lag that made it hard to tell, but that was a very clean overtake by a Rama on a very stricken Roland. And Roland, it looked like they might have been coming into the pits, but they are not. So Arama recovering up to 4th. Really, it's just a case of staying power. It's still Brandon who leads, but the gap that he had come down after he did have to pit from a mistake. And it's a very well-renowned challenger who is right behind him at this stage. Someone who isn't known in the Dynamic Racing Leagues community, at least, to make that many mistakes, as it seems we're having a bit of a scrap for 3rd. So Arama goes through. Let's see if we can catch this again. So it was going through the exit of turn 2, actually. That was a very nice move from Arama on his nuke shot semi-teammate. That unfortunately puts John Wondering down off the podium for now. But it is just about a case of finding the rhythm. John Wondering now on the softs. He did say, I recall that he's a lot more comfortable on the softs in terms of the stability of the car rather than pace alone. As King of Torque is now ahead of Brandon. What's happened here? So Brandon, there's barrels on the track, and there's extreme damage for Brandon. So engine damage, that must have been the mother of all impacts. I've just about missed it as I was chatting, but that's put Brandon down. They've used about half of their overtake, and Arama's doing the fastest lap with a 141.099. But that's extremely unfortunate for Brandon, who was looking extremely strong to take the race win. Just seemed to get it wrong, and then perhaps just clip a barrel or something. So no doubt there'll probably be yellow flags in that sector because of the barrels being all over the track. Or whether it was just the one that was slightly misplaced, we'll have to see. So Arama has been promoted up to 2nd from that. Seeming to be a little bit more consistent than they were in the earlier stages. It's been a fantastic recovery drive by them, and they're 15 seconds back from King, but they are certainly gaining on that. They're purple again through that sector. Fantastic to see the cars at such high speeds through one of these street circuits. Amazing to see. What a spectacle. So you just break into the hairpin. Let's see. There isn't a barrel on the racing. Oh, there it is. Just saw the bottom of shot. So it's not on the racing line, at least. It seems to be to the inside of the track. As King of Torque has just come into the pits. They've picked up damage. So they've had to stop again. So everyone's seeming to just be picking up damage and making mistakes. And look at this from Arama. He's going to be all over the back of King sooner or later. Continuing to gain the Cosworth power versus the BMW muscle. And very late on the brakes going into turn 1. Again, the lag making it very difficult to tell. Again, my apologies for that. Not much we can really do. But Arama just outside of the slipstream range. We'll be starting to feel the effects of the dirty air though, coming off of King's car. Again, easy flat for the Dutchman going through the chicane. And then it is just a case of not losing that much speed. Oh, bit of contact, just about manages to avoid damage. And he's closing up so much on King. And surely it's going to be a move here. Side by side. King glancing the wall. He's got the inside line. And he seems to make it stick. Will King be looking for a cutback? No. King's oversteered. And he brings the barrel, it seemed, back onto the racing line. He's back in the slipstream of Arama, so he's going to be trying something again. It seems like these cars are topping out a little bit though, so the slipstream not giving as much of an effect, but indeed here comes King. He's going to be hit by a massive wave of thick air at that kind of speed, but he's just got his nose in front as they make their way down to turn 1 yet again. Arama's on the right part of the track, really there's contact between the two. And these two still neck and neck as they make their way through turn 2. Now did Arama pick up damage from the contact? No. So again that might have just been lag or netcode or something. Arama doing a fantastic job to keep pace. It's a fantastic scrap at the front of proceedings. Such a high speed chase. Arama the Flying Dutchman versus King of Torque. And Arama's just about got his nose to the inside. It'll be the outside, but then he cuts back. Look at that! What a fantastic move from Arama. And again, it's not quite finished, as King will probably have a run going through the hairpin while he's looking to outbrake him. And indeed, King does go through, but he's run a bit deep, and that allows Arama to get back through. There you see the barrel, and Arama having to take evasive action around it. And these two are side by side just about, making their way back onto the straight. Arama sliding back into the slipstream. Will have to get a bit of an overrun if he's going to try something. Direct comparison between the BMW and the Cosworth engines. Extremely close stuff for the lead in this one. We've had just about half of the race gone. Arama's still darting and ducking and diving in the slipstream, and Brandon is in the pits again. But Arama's looking to go around the outside of turn 1 and has just about managed to make it work. What a move again. Now King started to drop back a little bit from that. But that was an absolutely amazing overtake from RBZ Arama. And it looks like King just can't seem to quite find the rhythm or the pace to stay with him. The gap is now over a second. So in the clear air it seems that Arama does have the advantage. Just gonna quickly check. He is on racing soft, so that would certainly explain some of the advantage that he's getting from that. So fantastic racing between these guys. A bit further down the order, there you see Roland, who's really been struggling throughout this one. They're on the mediums at this stage. I don't know how many times they've been into the pits with damage, but it's really unfortunate to see after they were starting out alright. Another one, Brandon, qualified on pole position. Hasn't really gone his way since then. John Wandering currently on the podium with the Nuco Osso machine, and back to our lead scrap. Arama having to defend from King of Torque. King of Torque managing to catch back up again. Pulling alongside. And it looks like he's going to have the inside, but the outside is really where you want to be for this corner. Oh, he manages to make it work nonetheless. And Arama's looking back down the inside of turn 2, and again, fantastic driving and fantastic sportsmanship between both of these. Racing room Again, difficult to tell due to the lag. But it's fantastic to see. It looked like King had to get off the throttle a little bit just in case Arama did go on the brake through the chicane. Hello, Prasetya Yogi in the chat. Welcome back to Dynamic Racing League's Super Formula here, round 4 at the Tokyo Expressway. We're having a fantastic scrap for the lead. And again, it's starting to look like Arama does have the pace through that middle sector. But on the brakes, it would seem that the Dynamic Esports BMW has a bit of an advantage. As you can see that flashing, so that means they're using a bit of the overtake to catch up. We're going back on board with King of Torque. As they stay quite far away from the rev limiter, they'll have a bit more advantage with the slipstream. And indeed they are pulling just about alongside. So it's a dead heat between the two. Hello to Gaming Now in the chat as well. 40 comments already, lads. Fantastic action going down on the track as well as the chat. As Arama's trying to stick around the outside, King to the inside again. Will Arama manage to do the same move he did in the last lap? Not quite. So King, using the overtake in a defensive manner, manages to hold position. And now it's Arama who'll be chasing through the middle sector. Coming up to the chicane, extremely impressive to see how close they get to the walls. Managing to take that flat out. And again, it would seem that Arama's dropping back a little bit. So the car behind suffering a bit from the dirty air. Perhaps through that chicane. But it's still game on between these guys. As Arama really throwing up some sparks against that wall. So 11 minutes to go. It is King of Torque who leads. But Arama really pressuring him. Oh, a little bit of a twitch from the car of King of Torque. That will allow Arama to have a little bit of a better exit. He's using the overtake. Of course, everyone at this point must have made their mandatory pit stops due to the amount of incidents we've had. Or rather, collisions we've had, as Arama now pulls alongside King of Torque. It's a fantastic duel yet again. And red light on King of Torque's overtake mode, so he's into the last 20 seconds of that. He's still having to deploy it. And he's going to have the outside. So roll reversal again, and he just about holds on, but there's contact, and King gets squeezed into the wall. So it has all ended in absolute disaster. As it just seemed that Arama just seemed to understeer, and then the collision occurred. Turn 1, extremely known for its understeering nature, and on that occasion it just didn't work out for him. But you know what? Credit to Arama for letting King back through after that. No doubt if King makes a pit stop, he would probably encourage Arama to make one as well, just out of the sake of sportsmanship. Or whether he would wait up again, I don't know. That would certainly settle it with the stewards. But of course, King now damaged and will be struggling a bit with the car. So he makes his way through the hairpin yet again. So Arama's car definitely in better shape. And has more overtake mode as well. I'm gonna watch King, see if he does come into the pits. Yep, indeed, he is forced to pit. And Arama, very sporting of him, doesn't need to pit, but does so anyway. Unless he's changed tyre compound. Did he start on the softs? Well, he's out anyway, after making that pit stop. He's 3 seconds ahead of King of Torque. Of course, King of Torque's pit stop would have taken longer to repair the damage. Hello to CJS44 Gaming in the chat. Good to see you here. We're having some fantastic action. Arama losing a bit of time now. I can't tell whether that's intentional or not. But they're still going, and it's still 2.3 seconds between the top two here at Tokyo Expressway. While they're a bit separated, let's just go through the rest of the order. John Wandering still in a podium position for Nuko also. Will be his best result of the season if he finishes where he does, if I recall correctly. Brandon, after qualifying on pole, car number 11, just after having an amazing start as well, just seeming to be bulletproof, but then just picking up damage at a certain point and then just really lost it from there. And Roland, very much the same, started out alright, started picking up damage and was on constant visits to the pit lane to get that fixed. But credit to him, he's still going. He's 49, just about 50 seconds back. But he is still going, to his credit. Well, it's good to see the Alfa Romeo's back. And Arama still leading us away for Nuke Shot Motorsport. Motul sponsorship on that machine car, 34. Last lap for King of Torque was a 1:44.8. And again, you can see in gaining the time, if you look on the top left, you can see the split between these guys. The live timing. Still find it really impressive to see the cars go flat out through that chicane in the middle of the course. So King of Torque has it all to do. And is indeed catching Arama. Yet again, they still have a little bit of their overtake mode left. Not as much as Arama. You can tell that by the red light, by the top air intake. Then you can see Arama's still green. King having to use it very sparingly. The gap just about 1 second, and he's going to be just outside the slipstream range, but perhaps on the next lap or through the next section of corners he'll be able to break that and get into the slipstream. That'll certainly help his chances further, even though Arama does have quite a bit more overtake to spare. We're in the last 5 minutes of race 1 here at Tokyo Expressway. Fantastic city circuit night race. And we've seen some fantastic racing and some fantastic action so far. King of Torque finally into that slipstream range. We're going on board with them. Again, last lap was a 1 minute 40.2. So that's fantastic pace from him. Of course, the cars are getting lighter and lighter as they burn off fuel, and the fuel does burn off very quickly through here. With the amount of flat out sections there are, you can really see, well, the lag, but also the pace that they're managing to carry. As Arama gets it wrong, and that's more than likely front aero damage or something. That's side by side nonetheless. As they make their way down to the hairpin, there's a little bit of a barge. And King just about manages to get ahead again. Indeed, they do have front aero damage. And Arama's got it all wrong. Need to have an onboard of this. So they just oversteer. And then they just... That was very odd. They seem to just hit an invisible wall. Now, I'm going to assume, because it's happened before, that they've hit a barrel, but it just hasn't shown up in the same place on our screen as it has on their screen. That does happen, which is very unfortunate. But Arama now exiting the pits, and that's allowing John Wandering, the fan favourite, to go up into second. So John Wandering with a fantastic job to just stay consistent, and it has certainly paid off. Now definitely into the highest place that he's ever been in his Dynamic Racing League's career, from what I recall anyway. But of course he will have Arama right on the back of him. We've got 2.5 minutes to go. That's about 2 laps. All depends on when the leader manages to cross that line. And again, it looks like Arama is really taking the time out of him. And there's contact! Or again, just lag tact. Or something. John Wandering's car is okay, but Arama does manage to get past. As in fact, there's more damage to the back of Arama's car. We'll see if we can find where that came from on the replay. No, we can't rewind far back enough. But again, rear suspension and rear aero damage. But at this point, if Arama does pit again, that's pretty much it. That is John Wandering taking second, so he might as well just stay out and hold on to it. I'm definitely not giving team orders over this stream. But he is indeed staying out. Funny that. I am team manager of Nookshot Motorsport as well, so that has something to do with it. As John Wandering is now into their last 20 seconds of overtake mode. And still Arama has quite a decent advantage in terms of having that overtake still there. So make their way through turn 1 again. Good job, just again skimming the barriers. More than likely the lag. Using the overtake on exit and seeming to gap John Wandering even with the damage. And it looks like that was Brandon getting a bit out of shape at turn 1. We'll just quickly see what happened to him. Yep, indeed, just ran way too wide and would have picked up damage from that. So that's extremely unfortunate, but it is King of Torque, who's coming around the last corner now, and I think this is going to just about be the last lap. We'll have to see, it's going to be close. We've got 7 seconds on the clock, and the checkered flag will indeed just about be out. It is King of Torque who wins Race 1 here in Tokyo. Congratulations to them. It was certainly a hard-fought race, but in the end they came out as the survivor, and it's going to indeed be Arama who takes second place. But Nookshot Motorsport, and John Wandering completes the podium. What a drive from him. It's going to be Brandon of the Hyper Racing Alfa Romeos coming 4th, and Roland in 5th by the end of this. And it looks like, oh, they're just seeming to be going slower than normal, even though it isn't engine damage according to that. But of course, congratulations to this guy, King of Torque. What a fantastic drive from them, and a fantastic battle we saw between them and Arama earlier on. Of course, it ended with a bit of a disaster, but Arama very fairly did give the position back and did follow him into the pit lane. So King of Torque wins race 1 here in Tokyo. 25 points, I believe, that goes their way. Oh, and look, John Wandering has managed to get ahead of Arama after the line. Their AI. There, of course, you just saw the final confirmed results, and it is this guy, King of Torque, with the fastest lap in the end, showing us all once again why he is one of the strongest competitors in dynamic racing leagues. Here are your final results. In the end, it was a 16.7 second gap that King of Torque had after Arama had to make another pit stop. John wandering about 3 seconds back from Arama in the end of things. It looked very close between them two as to who would get second. Brandon in the end just missing out on the podium after qualifying first, so they'll at least get the 4 points for winning qualifying, so that's certainly an achievement. And of course finishing in 4th, no mean feat, and Roland of course managing to finish as well. Very valuable points for Hyper Racing as they go forward. Interestingly enough, the cars, I know that we have specific, engine manufacturers for each one, but the only Honda came out on top in the end. That's quite an interesting little thing against all 4 Toyotas, but of course BMW power in inverted commas. So yeah, it was quite the lag fest, but we're going to have a second race nonetheless. And I wonder if that incident between King and Arama will be investigated. We'll have to see. It's going to be a reverse grid, if I recall correctly, for race 2. 20 minutes in length, no qualifying, of course, with it being a reverse grid. And for this one, everyone has to start on the mediums, and then the option to switch to the softs is there. Or is that DTM? Oh no, it is indeed. Everyone in race 2 must start on mediums, and it's optional to switch to the softs. Now the question is, if everyone manages to avoid getting damage on this occasion, I don't think it's going to be worth really going for those softs, considering you can go flat out anyway on the mediums. Again, we'll have to see how it all plays out. We've got a couple more cars on the track now, according to what I'm seeing. Oh wait, Carbon's on track, so yep, Carbon will be joining us for this race. At last he'll be lucky, or very happy to be back racing again for this one. And of course, Ayrton Spencer, his debut in the Super Formula Series. We've seen what he can do in DTM, Team Black Diamond, of course. They're rocking with Judd power. And everyone except Roland at this stage has made the switch to the medium, so just need to get that sorted out, and then we should be alright. So of course, with it being reverse grid order, that should put Roland on pole and Brandon in second. So an Alfa Romeo 1-2. That is if we are not counting the drivers that didn't start the last race, Carbon and Ayrton Spencer, in with that reverse grid shuffle. I would assume that they would start at the back regardless of that. We're having a ready call from Dynamic Carbon, so things will be getting underway quite shortly. He's remembered to switch the time. That's always good. So we are indeed having a 20-minute race this time. So the driver's readying up. Of course, this is someone who will be very, very happy with how the last race went. John Wandering on the podium. Fantastic stuff. So instead of the 5 cars we had in the last race, we're having 7. So hopefully that adds to the action a bit. Well, it should do, anyway. Having 7 cars go down to turn 1 instead of 5. Be very interested to see Carbon and Ayrton Spanner's pace compared to the rest of these guys. The rest of these guys, of course, have had a bit of running. We don't know whether Ayrton Spanner or Dynamic Carbon will be running private practice sessions with their respective teams. It wouldn't surprise me, knowing how competitive some of these drivers are. So again, not that long to go. If you are enjoying this stream and this race and this championship, make sure that you do leave a like, or a like rather, I can't speak. Consider subscribing as well. We do have another series running, Dynamic Racing League's DTM, so there's more fantastic action to follow on there, and there'll be even more future content with some other special championships that are planned in the future, as well as some potential exhibition races. So always good to keep in touch with, or to keep up to date rather, with what's going on in the world of Dynamic Racing Leagues. It is indeed an Alfa Romeo 1-2 for the start of this. Roland ahead of Brandon, then John Wandering will be 3rd on the grid, RBZ 4th, King of Torque, winner of race 1, in 5th, and Spanner is 6th, and Dynamic Carbon is in 7th. So we're about to go racing again here in Tokyo. Green, 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 and the cars are off yet again. It seemed that Brandon had a little bit of a better launch off the line, and John Wandering using that overtake already. The Alpha's still going side by side. It's a massive slipstream chain. They're 3 wide, they're 4 wide as they come down the straight. And it looks like King of Torque has managed to tactically get their way up in front as they're squeezing each other. As it looks like John Wandering has ran wide. There's a bit of contact with Roland as well. So some cars really suffering. Oh, Pinball McGee, as John Wandering and Dynamic Carbon seem to collide. So John Wandering seeming to just lose out some positions. They started 3rd, but they must have picked up damage from all that. Yep, suspension on the same side, so that is going to be an absolute nightmare for them to control. And there's contact between the 2 teammates, Brandon and Roland. And King of Torque is managing to use all this battling that's going on to their advantage. They have checked out. There you see them all the way up the road. We're going back to this. Dynamic Carbon up to 3rd after starting at the back of the grid. So they're looking to challenge. As there's, oh my, they're getting it completely wrong into the hairpin. We're gonna have to see it from a different perspective. So was this just a case of outbraking, or? Yep, Carbon just massively outbroke himself going into the hairpin. And now John Wandering going into this as well. Both Alfa Romeos have left the race, as that is extreme damage. I don't think we'll quite be able to see what happened, unfortunately. That is certainly one to be investigated, as Arama has really lost out on that. Well, they've made the tyre change and the repairs. But again, look where they are on the circuit compared to everyone else. That has really upset their chances. So Ayrton Spanner currently in 2nd. It looks like John Wandering and Carbon are a bit close, are they? So Carbon's starting to get a bit away from the American. Again, extremely high speeds we're seeing from these guys. The question is, what will Arama actually be able to do on the softs now that they've made that change? Will they actually be able to catch up as much as we thought, or as we didn't think? Because at least I don't think that it's worth it in terms of strategy, but of course when you're forced into making a pit stop anyway, you might as well roll the dice. And spend it going through. It looked like it was quite a twitchy moment for John Wandering in the back. We'll see if we can quickly catch up on that. So they was coming into the hairpin. It just looked like they might have had a little bit of a twitch on exit. Very easy to get the power, or very difficult to get the power down. Oh, no, they seem to be fine. So, yep, John Wandering still going there on the softs. King of Torque starting to stretch that gap. Again, it is such a demanding circuit in terms of reflexes and mental strength, it has to be said, because everything comes up at you so fast when you're going flat out through the middle sector, especially the chicane, as King does run a fair bit wide, manages to avoid spinning out. But it is just impressive to see these drivers doing what they are doing here today. The Tokyo Expressway East Outer Loop. Currently have 9 viewers on the stream, so thanks all of you for tuning in. Hope we're providing you with some entertainment. So we've had just about 6 minutes gone in this one. 6 minutes, 5 minutes 40 seconds rather. So Ed spent 4 seconds back, and on a bit of an island from King of Torque, they seem to have a little bit of a better exit through there. Let's just go on board with them and see how they do. Of course, the Welshman going by his helmet. Easy flat, although that was very slidey. That again is probably the lag exaggerating the effect. There really isn't that much time you can gain through this whole section when everyone does just pretty much just go flat out. That was nearly flat out through that corner. That was very impressive stuff by Ayrton Spencer, and indeed does take out a couple of tenths on King of Torque through that area. You can see King of Torque just about up the road. We're into the hairpin at the bottom of the circuit. Oh, just seemed to miss a gear or something, it sounded like. And indeed they have lost a bit of that time again as they make their way down towards the tunnel. And across the line to start lap 5. A bit further back, Dynamic Carbon, car 24. Missed out on race 1 due to a race ban, but they are still going strong, using a bit of that overtake on the straight, trying to close down the gap a little bit to Ayrton Spencer. Again, on a bit of an island, everyone seeming to be on an island at this point. So the gap's just about stabilized, from what I can tell. As that's Carbon getting it a little bit wrong through turn 1. Again, so easy to understeer, and very close to the barriers yet again. He's picked up damage from that, it would seem, so just a bit of confirmation. Yep, picked it up on the outside wall, so that's gonna set them back, but question is, will it cost them enough time that John Wandering would catch up? Because we saw this with Arama not pitting in the first race near the end of it, was that the damage wasn't severe enough that the car behind was able to catch up, and that pitting would only allow them to overtake. But it's certainly making the car a lot harder to drive, Carbon, has to be said. They make their way through the tunnel, and indeed they are choosing to pit. Now that's a bit of an interesting call. Do they think that they can get out ahead of John Wandering? There is John Wandering in the background of the Nuka Osso machine, the other blue and white car in the back. We go on board with them, so they're still getting the 10th. In fact, if they can get in the slipstream of Carbon, that could help them pull away from Arama also into the pits. So what on earth happened to Arama? They have damage? Yep, they certainly did. So another mistake from the Flying Dutchman. Unfortunately, not Alfa Romeos around him. That could have been the cause of it. Things seem to get a bit closer at the front actually, as Ayrton Spanner has got the count down to 3.5. 3.4, so it is coming down. Again, needs to push with the overtake, I think, and then we'll be able to get in the slipstream range and be able to stay with King a lot easier from that. Seeming to just be a bit faster through the middle sector. And especially the last sector actually we saw with them nearly being able to take it flat out as they brush the wall. Again, light flashing on the back of their car indicating the overtake is in use. There they go through that extremely tight and tricky chicane to line up, but they do a very good job with it. Still just deploying a little bit of overtake here and there. Can generally be a bit more generous with the overtake in race 2 due to the there being less time in race 2, of course, 20 minutes compared to the 30 minutes of race 1. And we're hearing that from gaming now that Ayrton Spanner has swapped his he's swapped to his controller instead of what I can only assume is a wheel. Is that what he usually uses in order to use the overtake mode system? So that's quite interesting. So he's now got the gap just underneath that 3 seconds. So it's certainly putting the pressure on King, and it just takes one slip up from King, one slight miscalculation on the steering, and it's all gone. So again, just brushing the wall on exit, I don't think that's going to be enough to really damage the car per se. The gap is definitely coming down, it's now 2.9, 2.8. And perhaps it is that Judd power plant that's giving him a little bit of an advantage as well. the chicane. Now into the 2.7s. So, King of Torque, does he have an issue with the car? No. Besides it lagging. It's now 2.6, 2.5. Got 2.4. So Ayrton Spener is really closing down the gap to King of Torque. 2.3, and seeming to just not have quite the exit that King of Torque had, so it's going up a little bit again, compensating by using the overtake mode. Let's just monitor how much is being used by both of these guys. So a fair bit used by Ayrton Spener, and interestingly enough, more used by King of Torque at this stage. So that isn't that good of a sign for King of Torque if he's used more and is still losing out on time, as I look like a bit of a twitch from Waddles. He's still suffering with the damage, of course, that I picked up earlier. Well, it must have picked up at some point anyway, but yep, seeming to oversteer. And coming into the pits, that'll definitely put John Wandering ahead. There goes John Wandering across the start-finish line. Carbon coming out the pits. They're in the last 20 seconds of overtake mode themselves. Really, not that much left. So they might have just thrown away a potential podium on that occasion. We'll have to wait and see. There's 5 minutes to go. Let's monitor how much John Wandering has used. He's used just about half, so he's definitely looking a lot stronger on that front. And Arama using quite a bit as well. Theirs has just gone red, so they're in the last 20. The gap, 1.3 seconds, not quite within that slipstream range, but Ayrton Spener is certainly getting close. Not long to go now. About 3, maybe 4 laps. Probably 3. The gap continuing to go down, but King of Torque just needs to stay calm, as it looked like that was a bit of a mistake from Ayrton Spener. We're gonna see. It certainly looked like it gained a lot of time and then seemed to lose a fair bit. No, it looked like they were okay. It's just that normal slight graze of the wall that they've been doing all race long. So indeed they are fine. And they are so much faster, it would seem, just gaining the hundredths of a second, not tenths, but managing to keep the revs up and keep the power going. As they're into the wall, and I'm having to constantly check whether he's got damage or not, because I can really not tell with the lag, but he's certainly within the slipstream. They're now going into the hairpin, seeming to get a bit of a better exit. Does King. Hasn't quite broken the slipstream again. No doubt Ayrton Spener will be trying to use the overtake to get back in it. And indeed they are within that range, going on board with Ayrton Spener. Trying to use the slipstream of the Dynamic Esports BMW to their advantage, and it's looking like it's not quite going to be enough to get them close enough going into turn 1. Indeed not, but they've certainly managed to close down the gap a fair bit. Oh my! The closing speed was absolutely insane. So the brakes certainly seem to be a lot more confident on the brakes as Ayrton Spener than King of Torque. Perhaps that's where he's gaining a fair bit of the time. Perhaps the Team Black Diamond car just stronger brake package. As all the contact contact between the two, and that is more than likely, yep, major damage. We need to see another angle of that. So here is a replay of what happened from the outside as it was heading up towards the chicane. Certainly not a place to try and move. But it was just before that it seemed that there was just a bit of contact. So that's damage to the car of Ayrton Spanner. And damage indeed to the car of King of Talk as he runs really wide, taking out every single cone known to man. With just about one lap to go, will any of these guys hit? King doesn't. Probably smart on their part. Ayrton Spanner realising that pretty much all hope of the victory was lost at that point, does indeed come into the pits just to make sure that they bring the car home. Also fueling up a little bit, was that? It certainly didn't need to fuel up, perhaps just didn't quite click. But yet, no doubt the lag played a fairly significant part in that, as CJS44 Gaming does say in the chat. I think everyone's just lagging everywhere. Today the servers aren't in the best of conditions. A bit further back. It's actually getting quite close between Arama and John Wondering. So John Wondering just about going side by side. Just quickly see. So this is how Arama actually got ahead. It was into the braking at the hairpin. Still on the straight. Arama will have the inside, but you can generally carry more speed by being on the outside. And indeed they do just slot in back behind John Wondering. John Wondering runs wide and into the wall. As Arama gets very twitchy on exit. Looks like they just about managed to hold on to that. But it is going to be King of Talk with a 100% record here today. And indeed they do take the victory of race 2 here at Tokyo. Round 4 of Dynamic Racing League Super Formula. It's going to be Ayrton Spanner, who was so nearly on the top step of the podium, not quite. The lag didn't play out in his favour. He'll have to settle for second. Dynamic Carbon looking to be just about set for third, although Arama does seem to be catching up quite significantly. He's got damage. And this is certainly not over for the last step of the podium, as Arama, I believe, doesn't have damage. And Carbon does, and that's going to really affect his speed on the straight. We're going on board with the rear wing of Dynamic Carbon. Will Arama be able to catch him? The start finish line is just about coming up. It doesn't look like it's going to be enough. And indeed, Carbon does avoid a very scary situation there of Arama closing in, but they do hold on to third position. Arama has to settle for fourth throughout that, and it's John Wondering who will come across the line in fifth. In the end, fastest lap. We got into the 1 minute 30s with a 1 minute 39.8. Fantastic drive by Ayrton Spanner. That's the fastest time we've seen throughout all of today. But of course it wasn't to be. It was this guy, King of Talk, making it 2 out of 2 here in Tokyo. Had a fantastic job. They did indeed. I forgot to save the race 1 replay again. I always do that. Hopefully someone has it. Carbon, please. But yep, there are your results yet again. So both Alfa Romeos didn't finish this one, Brandon and Roland respectively. It was King of Torque who came out on top, 17.7 seconds ahead of Ayrton Spanner, and Dynamic Carbon in third, who was 58 seconds back from King. And again, it was extremely close for third, as we see Arama only 3/10 back in the end from Carbon, but they do indeed finish fourth. And John Wandering has to settle for fifth on this occasion, but they'll be more than happy with the third place that they got in race 1. And of course, race 1 points are more than race 2 points, so he'll be very happy with that, as will his teammate Bandit once he finds out. So overall, that was a decent showing from the top guys. We've had some decent scraps, although the lag really hasn't helped regarding that, so extremely unfortunate. But again, thanks for tuning into the action that we've had here today. I've certainly enjoyed it. I hope you guys have too. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like and consider subscribing for future content such as the remainder of the season, as well as new seasons to come. But until then, I have been Off Apple of Nukeshot Motorsport and of course of Dynamic Racing Leagues. I've been your commentator today, and from here in Tokyo, I bid you farewell. Later, folks.